Hello and welcome to the science class. My name is Teacher June. I'm going to take you through Science Primary 6, Term 1. Alright, the topic we're going to look at today is called the circulatory system. The topic of today is the circulatory system. Now, the circulatory system is a system that helps in transporting blood around the body. Actually, the circulatory system is also known as the transport system because it transports very many things around the body, as we shall see. So we are going to begin with components of the circulatory system. We have three components of the circulatory system. One is the heart, blood, and blood vessels. The heart, blood, and blood vessels. So these are the three components of the circulatory system. Let's begin with the heart. The heart pumps blood to all body parts. So the main function of the heart is to pump blood to all parts of the body. The heart is located in the chest cavity. The heart is located in the chest cavity. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Then the heart is protected by the rib cage. The heart is protected by the rib cage. So that's some of the things you need to know about the heart. One, it pumps blood to all parts of the body. One, two, it is located in the chest cavity. They may ask you, where is the heart located? The heart is located in the chest cavity. 3. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles are muscles of the heart. Then lastly, the heart is protected by the rib cage. Then we have 4 chambers of the heart. 4 chambers of the heart. Now the heart has 4 chambers. One, we have the left ventricle, the right ventricle, then we have the left auricle, then lastly we have the right auricle. So we have the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the left auricle, and the right auricle. Those are the 4 chambers of the heart. Now, these 4 chambers of the heart, we have the lower chambers and the upper chambers. We have the lower chambers and the upper chambers. So we look at the lower, we begin with the upper chambers of the heart. 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 Now, the heart has 4 chambers. We said we have the lower chambers and the upper chambers. The upper chambers are called auricles, then the lower chambers are called ventricles. So the lower chambers, the upper chambers, we have the left auricle, then we have the right auricle. The upper chambers are called auricles. We have the left auricle and the right auricle. These are the 2 upper chambers of the heart. Then we look at the lower chambers of the heart. The lower chambers of the heart are called ventricles. The lower chambers of the heart. the lower chambers of the heart. So we have the left ventricle and the right ventricle. The left ventricle and to the right ventricle. The right ventricle. These are the two lower chambers of the heart, the left ventricle and the right ventricle. Then the upper chambers of the heart, the left auricle and the right auricle. The right auricle. The left auricle and the right auricle. Then we have blood vessels that are connected to the heart. Blood vessels of the heart. One, we have pulmonary vein. Two, we have pulmonary artery. Three, we have aorta. Then four, we have vena cava. So these are the four blood vessels that are found on the heart. We have the pulmonary vein, we have the pulmonary artery, we have the aorta, then we have the vena cava. So next we look at how the heart works. How does the heart work? Now, the heart has valves. The heart has what you call valves. If you check in your workbook, there's a diagram showing the human heart, and that diagram has a parts called valves. These valves prevent the backflow of blood. It has valves that prevent the backflow of blood. It has valves that prevent the backflow of blood. So the heart has valves, and these valves help to prevent the backflow of blood, so that blood does not flow backwards. Once blood flows from the lungs and it goes to the heart, it continues to different parts of the body, so it does not flow backwards. So once blood flows, these valves will close, and when these valves close, this blood cannot flow backwards. It keeps on flowing forward. That's why we say the heart has valves that prevent the backflow of blood. Number two, the heart has the pulmonary vein. The heart has the pulmonary vein. This pulmonary vein helps to transport oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. The heart has the pulmonary vein that transports blood, oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. So this pulmonary vein, its major function is to transport oxygenated blood from the heart, from the lungs to the heart. Now, what is oxygenated blood? Oxygenated blood is blood with oxygen. So this blood goes to the lungs to pick oxygen. Then as it is transported from the lungs to the heart, it goes to different parts of the body. So this blood will be called oxygenated blood. So the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary vein transports oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Number three, we have what you call the aorta. Aorta transports oxygenated blood from the heart to different parts of the body. So the heart has the aorta that transports oxygenated blood from the heart to different parts of the body. I told you oxygenated blood is blood with oxygen. Then number four, the heart has the vena cava. The heart has the vena cava that transports deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body back to the heart. So there is this blood vessel called the vena cava. This vena cava transports deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood is blood without oxygen, or blood with less oxygen but with more carbon dioxide. So blood without oxygen is called deoxygenated blood. So deoxygenated blood is transported from different parts of the body back to the heart. Then from the heart, this blood is going to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. So the heart has the pulmonary artery. The heart has the pulmonary artery that transports the oxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. So that's how the heart works. Then the heart has the septum. It has a part called septum. This septum helps to prevent oxygenated blood from mixing with deoxygenated blood. This septum, it's the part that separates the heart into two equal parts. So that part is called septum. Its major function is to prevent oxygenated blood from mixing with deoxygenated blood. That is how the heart works. I'm going to repeat my explanation. We say the heart has valves. These valves are structures that prevent the backflow of blood. Then number two, blood. This heart has what we call the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein helps to transport oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Oxygenated blood is blood with oxygen. So blood with oxygen comes from the lungs to the heart through the pulmonary vein. Then from the heart, this blood will go to different parts of the body through the aorta. So the aorta transports oxygenated blood, blood with oxygen, to different parts of the body. Then when respiration takes place to different parts of the body, this respiration will use oxygen. And once oxygen has been used for respiration, this blood will lose oxygen and it will have a lot of carbon dioxide. So this blood will be called deoxygenated blood. So this blood has to come back to the heart through the vena cava. And so that means that the vena cava transports deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body back to the heart. Then from the heart, this blood goes to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. So that means that the pulmonary artery transports deoxygenated blood or blood without oxygen to the lungs. Then we have a part called septum that prevents oxygenated blood from mixing with deoxygenated blood. So that is how the heart works. Then we have what we call the left ventricle. Remember we looked at chambers of the heart. We said the heart is divided into 4 chambers. We have the upper chambers and the lower chambers. The lower chambers are called ventricles. The upper chambers are called auricles. We have 2 upper chambers, the left auricle and the right auricle. Then we have 2 lower chambers, that is the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So the question is, why is the left ventricle thick-walled? The left ventricle is thick-walled to pump blood with a higher pressure to all parts of the body. The left ventricle is thick-walled to pump blood with a higher pressure to all parts of the body. If you look at that diagram showing the human heart in your booklet, you find that the left ventricle has thick walls. It is thick-walled. The reason why it is thick-walled is to be able to pump blood with a higher pressure to all parts of the body. Then we have what we call blood vessels. We have finished looking at the heart. Please look at the diagram of the heart in your booklet, then look at those parts. So the heart has a pulmonary vein, aorta. From the aorta, we have the vena cava, then we have the pulmonary artery. Then we also have valves. I've given you the function of all those parts. Then there is the septum, which prevents oxygenated blood from mixing with deoxygenated blood. We have finished looking at the first component of the circulatory system, which is the heart. We say the heart pumps blood to all parts of the body. Next, you look at the next component, which is blood vessels. Blood vessels. What are blood vessels? Blood vessels are muscular tubes. Why do we call them muscular tubes? Because they are made out of muscles. These tubes are made out of muscles. Now, when we say tubes, it simply means that they are hollow. They are hollow to allow blood to pass through. They are called blood passages. Blood passes through these blood vessels. So, blood vessels are muscular tubes that help to transport blood around the body. Blood vessels are muscular tubes that help to transport blood around the body. We have three types of blood vessels. We have the artery, veins, and capillaries. We have the artery, the veins, and the capillaries. Capillaries are also known as blood capillaries. We shall begin with the artery. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. And the main artery is called the aorta. Aorta is the main artery. Aorta is the main artery. Aorta is the main artery. Alright, we've been looking at types of blood vessels, and we said we have three types of blood vessels. We have what we call arteries, we have the veins, and then we have the blood capillaries. We say arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. And let's look at characteristics of arteries. Which characteristics do these arteries have? One, we've said they carry blood away from the heart. They carry blood away from the heart. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Number two, arteries are thick-walled. They are thick-walled. They are thick-walled. They are thick-walled. All arteries have thick walls. Then they have a narrow blood passage. 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 Then, lumen. They have a narrow lumen. The word lumen simply means blood passage. So their blood passage is narrow. They have a narrow blood passage. They have a narrow blood passage. Then we say they are thick-walled. They carry blood away from the heart. They carry blood away from the heart. Then arteries carry blood under high pressure. They carry blood under high pressure. They carry blood under high pressure. They carry blood under high pressure. So these are the characteristics of arteries. Then they don't have valves. They don't have valves. They don't have valves. They don't have valves. Now, these are the 5 characteristics of arteries. They carry blood away from the heart. They are thick-walled. they have a narrow blood passage or lumen, they carry blood under high pressure, then they don't have valves. We look at the structure of the artery. 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 We say these arteries are thick-walled. So, thick walls, this one is a narrow lumen, or narrow blood passage. Narrow lumen or blood passage. So, this is a structure showing the artery. It has thick walls, it has narrow lumen, and or narrow blood passage, and it has no valves. It has no valves. Then we shall write NB. Shall write NB. Why are arteries thick-walled? Why are arteries thick-walled? Now we said arteries have thick walls. We said arteries have thick walls. Arteries have thick walls. Why are arteries thick-walled? One, the reason why they are thick-walled is to withstand high blood pressure or to resist high blood pressure. To resist or withstand. Withstand high blood pressure. Withstand high blood pressure. That's why they are thick-walled. So next we look at, and we say most arteries, NB, most arteries carry oxygenated blood. Apart from the pulmonary artery, except the pulmonary artery. Most arteries carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. So the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, but other arteries, like the aorta is the main artery, it carries oxygenated blood. So most arteries carry oxygenated blood apart from the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood. Next, look at veins. Look at veins. Now, veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. Veins are blood vessels. Veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. Veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. Veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. And the main vein is called the vena cava, NV. The main vein is called the vena cava. The main vein is called the vena cava. The main vein is called the vena cava. Look at characteristics of veins. Characteristics of veins. Characteristics of veins. One, they have valves. They have valves. They have valves. Number two, they have a wider lumen. They have a wider lumen or wider blood passage. They have thin walls. They have thin walls. Then blood that flows through or they carry blood with low pressure. They carry blood under low pressure. They carry blood under low pressure. So these are the characteristics of veins. They have valves. They have a wider lumen. Then they have thin walls. Wider lumen means wider blood passage. Then they have thin walls. Then they carry blood under low pressure. They carry blood under low pressure. Now, we look at the structure of a vein. The structure of a vein. Going back to the characteristics of veins, we said they have valves. These are the valves of a vein. Then we said veins have a wider lumen. They have a wider lumen. Then they have thin walls. They have thin walls. They have thin walls. So veins have thin walls. They have a wider lumen. Then they have valves. then blood that flows through veins is under low pressure. Now let's look at the importance of the valves. Valves prevent the backflow of blood. Valves prevent the backflow of blood. Valves prevent the backflow. Valves prevent the backflow of blood. Valves prevent the backflow of blood. So that's how valves are important in a vein. They prevent the backflow of blood. Just like the valves in the heart, they also prevent the backflow of blood. Then we shall also say most veins Now, most veins carry deoxygenated blood. I told you deoxygenated blood is blood without oxygen. So most veins carry deoxygenated blood apart from the pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. So it's only the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein is the only vein that carries oxygenated blood, but the rest of the veins, like the vena cava, they carry deoxygenated blood. They carry blood without oxygen. So we look at differences between the veins and the arteries. How are veins different from arteries? Now we look at structural differences between veins and arteries. Structural differences between veins and arteries. So we are going to begin with veins, then arteries. Here we shall have veins. Then here we shall have arteries. So one, they have valves. They have valves. Then here, arteries have no valves. Have no valves. Number two, have wider lumen. Have a wider lumen. Veins have a wider lumen, then arteries have a narrow lumen. Have a narrow lumen. Have a narrow lumen. Then number 3, veins have thin walls. Arteries have thick walls. Arteries have thick walls. Arteries have thick walls. So that is the structural differences between veins and arteries. Veins have valves, arteries do not have valves. Veins have a wider lumen, arteries have a narrow lumen. Then lastly, veins have thin walls, while arteries have thick walls. Then we have functional differences. Functional differences between veins and arteries. Functional differences. Functional differences between veins and arteries. Functional differences between veins and arteries. Here you can say veins carry blood towards the heart, while arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood towards the heart, while arteries carry blood away from the heart. So this is the functional difference between veins and the heart, and veins and arteries. Veins carry blood towards the heart, while arteries carry blood away from the heart. Then number 2, you can say most veins carry the oxygenated blood. Most veins carry the oxygenated blood. While most arteries carry oxygenated blood. So that is another difference, functional difference between the vein and the artery. Next, you look at blood capillaries. Blood capillaries. Blood capillaries. Blood capillaries. Now, blood capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. They are the smallest blood vessels. They are the smallest. They are the smallest blood vessels. Blood capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. Then maybe we look at the functions of blood capillaries. Functions of blood capillaries. Now, blood capillaries have two major functions. One, they join veins to arteries. They join veins to arteries. They join veins to arteries. Number 2, they help in exchange of blood materials. They help in exchange. They help in exchange of blood materials. They help in exchange of blood materials. That's how blood capillaries are important. That is how blood capillaries are important. Next, we look at blood. We look at blood. Look at blood. Now, blood is a liquid that flows in the body. Blood is a red liquid that flows in the body. Blood is a red liquid. A red liquid that flows in the body. Blood is a red liquid that flows in the body. We look at components of blood. Components of blood. Components of blood. We have 4 components of blood. We have red blood cells. Red blood cells. Number 2, we have white blood cells. White blood cells. Number 3, we have platelets. Number 4, we have blood plasma. We have plasma or blood plasma. So these are the components of blood. Those are the components of blood. So that will be the end of our lesson. When we meet in our next lesson, we shall look at these components of blood one by one. Shall be in the red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and lastly plasma. Thank you so much for attending to my lesson. May God bless you.